Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, I'm going to go through the whole list of MLB free agents position by position and tell you who I would like to see the Dodgers target this offseason. Let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Dodger fans. I am Jeff Snider of Baseball Essential, and this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm flying solo today, but Vince should be back with me tomorrow. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. And as I mentioned, I am going to be going through the list of free agents, every free agent in MLB. I looked at their names at least briefly. There's a list on MLB.com, sorted by position, and then by Fangraphs WAR over the last two seasons to try to kind of sort it by who might be the most desirable. So I went through and I've got a list of basically for every position who I might be interested in the Dodgers getting. Obviously, there's a lot of caveats here. When we're talking about right fielders, for example, the Dodgers have Mookie Betts in right field. He's not going anywhere. And so, basically all of these would require a little maneuvering, and obviously I wouldn't want the Dodgers to go after all of the guys I'm going to talk about, but if basically I'll tell you the guys who I wouldn't mind them going after for one reason or another. So that's the plan. I will tell you, I'm going to save shortstop for last because shortstop is a bigger deal. So I'm going to skip shortstop as I'm going through. And then the last segment will probably be entirely devoted to shortstop. So that's planned. So I'm just going to start with catchers. And honestly, looking at the list of catchers, there's nobody on the list really. If I had to pick one, Yan Gomes is probably a better hitter than Austin Barnes for a backup catcher, but he's worse defensively. Manny Pena might be a slightly better hitter, and he's probably better defensively than Barnes, but he's not enough better in either category to make it worth it. So there's nobody on the catcher. I mean, it is a barren free agent list. You got, guys like Jeff Mathis and Jose Lobaton and, just nothing exciting on that catcher's list. So unless there's a trade somewhere, it seems like Austin Barnes is the Dodgers backup catcher for another year. First base is a lot more interesting. I would love to have Freddy Freeman. I assume he's going to go back to the Braves, but he's one of my favorite players and he would do a ton for the Dodgers lineup. Obviously that would mean some defensive maneuvering, with Max Muncy, but he's turned himself into an all-star second baseman and into an all-star first baseman. So maybe he could become an all-star third baseman too. None of the other first basemen really jump out at me. Brandon Belt, Anthony Rizzo, really after that, it's like way down the list. You got Yoshi Tsutsugo, Danny Santana, Albert Pujols, so really for me at first base, Freddie Freeman is one. You make room for Freddie Freeman. If you have a chance to get Freddie Freeman, you do it and you make room for him. And I would love to see the Dodgers do that, although I don't think it's likely. Second base is, you've got Marcus Semien, who's obviously intriguing. Buying high on a guy at age 31 is a little bit scary. Might depend on the length of the contract that he's looking for, but he has, good defense at multiple positions and he can hit a ton. Then there's also Josh Harrison, we talked about the other day, and there's Donovan Solano. Both of those guys could fill like that right-handed multi-position bench spot. So both of those are interesting. I'm more interested in Harrison than Solano. They're about the same age. Solano, I don't know. For some reason, I don't believe that he can be good or that he's going to stay good. I don't know. So give me Josh Harrison maybe. Third base is pretty interesting. There's nobody that exciting, which is kind of a bummer because, if the Dodgers have a question mark position right now, it's kind of third base. Justin Turner has one more year on his contract. He has not been as good defensively lately as he had been in the past. And so it's like, what is the plan? at third base. And so it would be nice if there was a good third baseman on the market. But, you got Kyle Seager, who's intriguing for a few reasons, but none of them are really about making the team better. Chris Bryant is probably going to get paid more than I'd want the Dodgers to pay him. And so there's nobody really on the third base list that is super exciting for me. So with that, I'm going to take a break. I'll do the outfield when I come back. And like I said, I'm going to save shortstop for last. I want to thank you all again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. It means a lot to Vince and me. We love talking Dodgers with you. We hope you will continue to make us your first listen every day. And like I said, I'll be back to talk about the outfield. So keep it Locked On Dodgers. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. All right, I'm back. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. I hope you will continue to do that. Let's keep going. We're talking about free agents by position and guys who I might be interested in the Dodgers looking at. So left field is kind of interesting. You've got Mark Canha at the top of the list. He's a good hitter. He can play a lot of different positions, although he isn't necessarily very good at any of them. Kyle Schwarber is probably a better hitter, but he's a huge defensive liability, so he'd probably spend a ton of time at DH. Eddie Rosario was lights out in the NLCS, but he wasn't very good in the other two series for the Braves, and his much longer track record has him as just slightly above average offensively and average at best on defense, other than a great arm. I like Andrew McCutchen, as I've talked about before, for leadership reasons in a bench role, and I don't hate the idea of bringing Jock Peterson back. And so, Peterson might be I don't know if he has accepted being a platoon player yet or not, but I don't think he's going to command a lot of money. And so I wouldn't mind seeing Jock Peterson come back to go for a third straight World Series championship. But yeah, none of the left fielders really excite me. I don't hate the Mark Canha idea, though, even though he's going to be 33 years old. And like I said, his defense isn't great, but he can play a lot of places. So I guess, that segues into center field, because Chris Taylor obviously is my favorite of the center field options. Canha could be a decent replacement for Taylor if Taylor doesn't come back, just that utility player kind of guy. Starling Marte in center field is really intriguing, although he is getting a little bit older. He's 33 years old. He's very fast, but his defense in center isn't quite as good as you might expect for a fast guy, but he can hit, he can steal bases. He's built like a rock. None of the other center fielders on the list interest me at all. You've got Brett Gardner, no thank you. Kevin Pillar, even more no thank you. Odubel Herrera, too much no thank you to describe in one podcast. Billy Hamilton, apparently he's still a baseball player. So yeah, a lot of, very top heavy. Starling Marte and Chris Taylor in center field, and then a whole lot of nothing. And then we get to right field. The only one interesting on this list to me is Nick Castellanos. And like I said at the beginning, obviously Mookie Betts is ensconced in right field for the Dodgers. I think Castellanos, he'd mostly be a DH type. They could play him in left field some. It would mean, I guess it would mean trading AJ Pollock. I don't know. Castellanos, even though he's intriguing, between his defense and the fact that the Dodgers don't really have a role for him, I think he's mostly going to be a DH type. And, I guess I'll segue that into the DH and lump him in there with the DHs because, assuming the DH comes to the National League, I think the Dodgers will probably use it to cycle days off for guys, with JT getting most of the days or some of the extra days anyway there. So you've got Nick Castellanos, who's listed as a right fielder, but more of a DH type. On the actual DH list, really Nelson Cruz is the only interesting guy on the list. And I just don't think he's a fit for the Dodgers' plan for what they are going to do with that DH, assuming it does come to the National League. Then we get to the pitchers, starting pitchers. The first six guys on the list all intrigue me to some degree or another. You got Max Scherzer, Kevin Gausman, Carlos Rodon, Clayton Kershaw, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Robbie Ray. Obviously, Kershaw for sentimental reasons, if nothing else. And I do think when he is healthy, he's still a very good pitcher. Scherzer, I think with the right load management, I think is the term that's in vogue these days. With the right load management, Max Scherzer could definitely still be a big asset to the team. It's going to depend on what he wants. Kevin Gausman, Carlos Rodon, I think I've talked about both of them in the past. Eduardo Rodriguez and Robbie Ray, both intriguing left-handed pitchers for different reasons. Robbie Ray kind of came into his own, might even win the Cy Young Award. Actually, I don't know. I don't pay enough attention in the American League, honestly. But Robbie Ray had a really good season, and he's always had good stuff. We still saw him a lot when he was with the Diamondbacks, so he intrigues me. John Gray is further down the list, and he intrigues me even more than a lot of those guys. We've talked about Steven Matz and the possibilities there. I'm still somewhat hopeful that Danny Duffy will get healthy and re-sign with the Dodgers, his childhood favorite team that he never got to suit up for. And then the only other guys on the list who really interest me at all are Noah Syndergaard and Justin Verlander, neither of whom have pitched much or at all in the last 2 years. And then we get to relief pitchers. And, Kenley Jansen is at the top of the list, and I think he's at the top of my personal list too. He's, Raisel Iglesias is above Kenley Jansen on the list. And Iglesias is interesting, but he's the rare reliever who has a qualifying offer attached, so maybe not. I don't know that he's worth giving up a draft pick for. But yeah, other than Iglesias and Kenley, it's basically Corey Knebel and Kendall Graveman, I think. And, a whole lot of names on this relief pitcher list, and it just kind of underscores how hard it is to build. Obviously, Joe Kelly, too. I think he'll be back with the Dodgers. But it underscores how hard it is to build a bullpen through free agency, because it's so hard to know who's going to be good, who's going to be healthy. Can they keep it up what they did the previous year? I always talk about Marianna Rivera. The thing that was so remarkable about him wasn't how good he was. It was how long he was good for, because relievers don't do that very often. So that's it for the relievers. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to talk about the shortstop position that I passed over, because it is pretty darn interesting, and there's a lot to talk about with that. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day, and keep it locked on Dodgers. So Thanksgiving's coming up. As you know, by looking at me, I like Thanksgiving. Delicious food, great treats, plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. A slice of pie has 300 calories or even more. Most Built Bars are only about 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. So, if you like coconut cream pie, get a coconut Built Bar. Or a raspberry pie, go with a raspberry Built Bar. A lot of good flavors to replace any pie. They're all low calorie, low carb, low fat, and high protein, and they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. Built is a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or two. Share some at your family gatherings. It'll make things less awkward. Maybe your Aunt Betty hasn't tried a Built Bar yet. There's new surprises all month, limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly, so check the site often. There's nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, I'm back for one last segment. We're going to talk about the shortstops on the free agent list. And, the bottom tier, or the down ballot guys, Javi Baez doesn't interest me at all. He's good defensively. He's sometimes a decent hitter, strikes out way too much, and is just so, I'm not interested in Javi Baez. Then you got, I'll just read the rest of the list. After the top three that I'll talk about in a minute, you got Javi Baez, Jose Iglesias, Freddie Galvis, Andrelton Simmons, Pete Cosmo. Apparently he's still a thing. Devin Marrero and Andrew Romine. Pete Cosmo, I legit, if you asked me, when did Pete Cosmo retire, I would have guessed, 2016. I'm going to actually look it up. I don't even believe that this isn't a typo. Like, I believe it's not a typo, but I don't know if I believe it. Okay. So, he hadn't played in the big league since 2018, but then he played 3 games with the A's this year. Wow. Yeah. So Pete Cosmo, still a thing. Was he playing in the minors? Yeah, he was playing in AAA. He went to Australia and then Anyway, so Pete Cosmo is still a thing. I am not interested in Pete Cosmo. So yeah, none of those guys really interest me at all. It's really the top three guys. And from a baseball standpoint, you've got in this order, Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, and Corey Seager. From a baseball standpoint, none of those guys are perfect options, but all three are good in different ways. Corey Seager is the one we know and love. And I think he can be a passable shortstop for at least another couple of years before they have to figure out a different position for him. Trevor Story struggled a lot in 2021, but he's very good defensively, and he has a decent track record of being a pretty good hitter. Carlos Correa is clearly the best of the three. He's almost as good a hitter as Seager, and he's significantly better defensively. But as you may have heard, he carries some baggage with him. And so that's kind of what I'm going to spend the rest of this segment talking about is Carlos Correa's baggage and what, if anything, it would take for Dodger fans to get on board with signing Carlos Correa. Because if you think about it, like if it wasn't for the baggage, I think we would all be excited. We would all be pushing, come on, Dodgers, do the right thing. Sign Carlos Correa because he's the best shortstop on the market. Especially if you factor in the defensive stuff that, people have been saying Corey Seager is going to have to move off shortstop. They've been saying it for 5 or 6 years now. And people are still saying it. I'm not as an extreme view there. I think all of his negative defensive value in 2021 came before his broken hand. I think he was nursing some other injury, and the broken hand allowed it to heal because he was a much better defensive shortstop after that healed, after he came back from the broken hand. So, but he still wasn't, he just got up to about average. And, Carlos Correa is an excellent defensive shortstop. And like I said, he's almost as good a hitter as Corey Seager, probably has a little bit more power. They're different kinds of hitters, but, Carlos Correa, he's an excellent baseball player. And as you know, he was on the Cheating Cheaters in 2017. And not only was he on that team, but he has been maybe the most vocal and outspoken in defiance since then. He has he gets defensive about it. He's had a war of words with Cody Bellinger over it. He had a war of words with whatever relief pitcher in the playoffs said that it seemed like the Astros were cheating again this year. And he's just defiant, and he doesn't seem to understand that when you cheat and you get caught cheating, people are going to sometimes assume that you're a cheater. And so I've been thinking, what would it take? It's almost, I think that this would be harder for the fans to take than the players. I think if the Dodgers went after Carlos Correa, they worked out a deal. I think Carlos Correa and Cody Bellinger could sit down, hash out the troubles. I think, Carlos Correa might even come out and say, I had to stick up for my teammates. They could try to sell it as a positive thing. I am a loyal guy. I am true to my teammates. I will battle for my teammates even when they've done wrong. And, that's all that it was. I don't know if fans would buy that. And I think it would be harder for the fans. There's been a lot of talk the last couple of weeks on Twitter and social media about what if the Dodgers went after Carlos Correa. And it's kind of, I think Bill Plaschke wrote an article about it last week that kind of got going again. Dodgers Nation had talked about it a week or two ago. And, there's a wide range of opinions. And there have been some people who say that they would be so upset that they wouldn't watch as much Dodger baseball if the Dodgers signed Carlos Correa. Others who say, I'd still love the Dodgers, but I could never root for Carlos Correa. I will always boo him. And then there's a lot of, I root for the name on the front, not the name on the back. And that's kind of where I fall in. Like, it's hard for me to picture ever being a Carlos Correa fan, but if he was on the Dodgers and he came up to bat, I would root for him to do well because I want the Dodgers to do well. And that's where it's difficult. Like, I feel a little bad for Correa, but not really. But, his whole career right now is defined by this. And he's a former Rookie of the Year. He's gotten MVP votes. He's a Gold Glove winner. He's won a World Series that he didn't deserve to win. He's accomplished a lot in his career, but right now this is what he's known for. And that's sad. And if nothing else, it's cautionary tale to the rest of us, to remember that sometimes you are only remembered for your worst thing. And whether that's fair or not, it's kind of important to make sure that your worst thing isn't too bad. So, O.J. Simpson, Hall of Fame running back. Nobody thinks about that. Although I did have a coworker once who was kind of weird and didn't know a lot about the world. But he only knew O.J. Simpson as that guy from the Naked Gun movies. Didn't know him as a Hall of Fame running back or a wife killer, just that guy from the Naked Gun movies. So, but then maybe I'll tell more stories about that guy sometime. I've got some good ones. But Carlos Correa right now is known for his worst thing, and maybe coming to the Dodgers and kind of clearing that slate would be good for him. I just don't know if Dodger fans would get on board. After there's already some fans who feel betrayed by the team for signing Trevor Bauer last year, and then that going in a direction that, while people like to pretend they could have predicted it, nobody could have predicted that it would have gone the way it went. But people already weren't happy about the Trevor Bauer signing even before all the current legal problems. And so it would be, I think the Dodgers would have to, if they decide to go after Carlos Correa, it would have to be a full team effort of, publicly stating support for the move. And assuming Clayton Kershaw comes back, Kershaw would have to be involved. Cody Bellinger would definitely have to be involved. Justin Turner, anybody who was on that 2017 team that got the World Series stolen from them would have to come out publicly in favor of it. And maybe that would change fan opinion, and maybe it wouldn't. But I think for me, if I knew that legitimately all the guys who got robbed in 2017 were okay with Carlos Correa coming to the team, I would be a lot more okay with it personally. And that's basically what it boils down to for me. And so, going back to the top three of Seager, Story, and Correa, like I said, there's no perfect options. And I don't know, if the Dodgers need to sign any of them, because they also have Trey Turner, who is a shortstop and didn't have a position. They have him for one more year. So, who knows what they're going to do, but, I go back and forth. I've had emotions ranging from vehemently against the Dodgers signing Carlos Correa to, I could get on board with that. And, right now I'm somewhere in between there, and maybe that's not good for a podcast episode to say, I'm lukewarm on that. Podcasts aren't supposed to be lukewarm. It's supposed to have hot takes and strong opinions, but, I don't on that, I guess, right now, but maybe I will tomorrow. So keep following me on Twitter. And, with that, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm recording in a different method today, so I don't actually know how long this episode's been. So I will be as surprised as you at the end when I look and see how long it is. And, it was either shorter or longer or about the same as usual. And whatever it was, I enjoyed doing it. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. And today, for your second listen, go ahead and check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and we hope you will. We are at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at Vince Samperio. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and the DMs are open in all of those places. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com, and our phone number for voicemails or texts is 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree, you just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.